'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Not only have I been the owner of Mint Mobile for the last few years, I've also been a customer. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
New activation and upfront payment for 3-month plan required. Taxes and fees extra. Additional restrictions apply. See mintmobile.com for full terms.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile, with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
New activation and upfront payment for 3-month plan required. Taxes and fees extra. Additional restrictions apply. See mintmobile.com for full terms.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Selling a little or a lot? Do your thing however you cha-ching with Shopify, the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. Get a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/offer23. This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Selling a little or a lot? Do your thing however you cha-ching with Shopify, the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. Get a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/offer23.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
You know, if we pay down this much per month and we put this much in savings per month, this is where we're going to be at the end of the year. And that is so motivating because when you can see that number, it's like, okay, it's finite, right? You're like, this is what we're working towards. This is our goal at the end of the year. And then you can make a new goal for the next year.
Have you ever thought, how did I manage to lose myself? Being a mom is so hard, especially when we're feeling stressed and disconnected. We exhaust ourselves trying to create this perfect life for our family. You deserve to enjoy your marriage and your kids without the stress perfectionism brings. I am going to teach you how to identify who you are outside of all of the roles you play. Hi, I'm Veronica Cisneros. I'm a wife, mother of 3, and a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am on a mission to teach women just like you how to become empowered and unapologetic. Welcome to our Girl Gang. Welcome to Empowered and Unapologetic. I'm your host, Veronica Cisneros. Today's guest is a CPA, mama of 2. She's been married for 7 years and is the founder of the Bliss Plan. She is on a mission to help women master their personal finances by creating life-changing budgets and financial plans so they can live their best life. Please help me by welcoming Audrey Denholm. Hey, Audrey.
Hey, Veronica. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast.
Absolutely. Okay. So I have to do a little bit. We have to put ourselves out there. So we actually recorded this. We did the whole thing, and it was so good, except I completely forgot to hit record. Like, what if big transparent here, like totally forgot to hit record, and we're like high-fiving each other because it was so good. And then I looked at it and I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God, Audrey, I'm so embarrassed to admit this, but I totally forgot to hit record. And I just have to say thank you so much for being understanding and coming back. I know you're a busy mama. So all of that to say, I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And it was great to kind of talk it out too. So I think it's awesome.
So tell us your story. How did you become a CPA?
So really it was kind of, I'm good with numbers. I like that part of it. I kind of ruled out other things that I wasn't good at, like science. And so that's kind of just how it went. It went towards that. And, but the more that I work in it and the more that I talk to people, I find that the biggest thing that people have questions about is their personal finance. And that's really something that I don't really think is taught in schools or is really shown by a lot of people. And unless you're in it, it's really hard to kind of get that base understanding. So what I hear from a lot of people is that there's, you start your life, you start your family and all these things, but, nobody's ever walked you through how to create a budget or how to create an annual financial plan or what that looks like, or, and there's lots of information online, which is almost hard because it's overwhelming. There's so many different ways to start a budget. There's so many different, systems and apps and all kinds of things. So it can be really overwhelming. So I just wanted to create something that, was streamlined and is just a step-by-step. You just don't have to worry about all the other things and take it one step at a time.
What would you say are the biggest mistakes we make? Because like right away as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, I have money, which means I could spend it, and that was my thinking for a really, really long time. And I shared with you, it wasn't until we discovered Dave Ramsey that I realized, well, wait a minute. No, that's not the way it works. If you have money, you have to save it. You have to actually pay things off, and you can't use that credit card and just be like, whatever. So what would you say are some of the common mistakes we make as moms?
I think some of the common mistakes is just underestimating how much all the little things add up. So if you don't sit down and look at all of it together, then there's no way to know. And I'm the same, right? I'm like, oh, I only went out for coffee, a few times this month. But then when I sit down and I look at it, I'm like, whoa, okay, last month, you had a coffee problem, you need to slow down. And so it's just it's just understanding. And everybody does that, because on their own, they're just little costs, and everybody uses the example of a coffee, but with kids too, it's buying things when you're out. Mm-hmm. And, I find it really easy to spend money on my kids because, you're a mama and you just want the best for them and they need new shoes and they need new clothes. So it adds up. I think that's probably the biggest mistake. Not really mistake. It's just, if you don't see it all together, it's hard to have an understanding of exactly how much you spent.
Yeah, I could see that. I remember I was sharing with you, I did the Dave Ramsey plan. Yeah. And I remember when we started doing it, at first my husband was a really, really big spender because he was always gone. Yeah. He was gone due to deployments. He was in the Marine Corps. And so whenever we would come home, it was both of us battled with, I wanted to go ahead and save. He wanted to spend. And then if we didn't have it, we used a credit card. And as I admitted to you, we ended up with 20 grand. It is so embarrassing to say, however, it's so true. And I think it's really, really important for me to be honest, because I think we all fall into that. We have it. And it wasn't until we looked at all of our bills that we started to kind of freak out. And I think my husband like crazy freaked out because it was time for us to go school shopping. Homeboy took us to the Goodwill and I like almost killed him. Because it's like, wait a minute, are we like this broke that like we're buying our daughter's school clothes from the Goodwill? Not that I have anything against Goodwill, because I used to shop at the Goodwill and get all my clothes from there because I wanted to, because they had awesome clothes. I was like into the golfer pants and all of those other things. You can't find those in like regular stores.
No.
But my kids weren't doing that. So this was kind of forced. And I remember when we walked in, all of the girls were just so excited to be there. And I remember looking at my husband and like daggers, like literally daggers in my eyes. Like, why? Why are we here? I felt like the biggest failure. And when my husband and I started to talk about it, a whole bunch of emotions came with it. My husband went towards avoidance. I went towards complete fear and frustration. And so what would you say would kind of help us, you know, go through this financial journey together and it not separate us?
So I think the biggest thing is just to take away any blame and guilt, because I think that's really one of the hardest parts about talking about it, because everyone's like, well, you spent on this and you spent on this. So if you can just come to the table, just be like, okay, you know, it's nobody's fault. Like, take away all that, because that doesn't help the situation. And if you just come at it and say, okay, you know, like, this is where we're at. Let's first identify where we're at. And that's kind of taking a snapshot in time. So like, what is our debt? What do we have? Like, what are our assets? Like, what is working really well for us? And then the next is to make a plan. And if you can make a plan together, then, you know, it really, really changes the dynamic, because you're working towards something together. And, you know, also keep in mind that you need to give people room to adjust and work through things. So try to keep it, it can be positive, and it can be really exciting to, you know, start paying off debt and creating freedom with your finances, and having freedom to make, you know, go on that Disney trip, not on credit, just because you planned it and it's really exciting. So having a plan is definitely step number one.
Okay. So I hear you. And a couple things that come up for me is, okay, so what if I'm in, but he's not? What if I'm all about saving and being a part of this plan and he's not? Like, what does that look like? What do I do?
So my advice would be first to kind of get that first picture. So show the picture. Just be like, okay, this is where we're at right now, because there is a chance that without seeing it all together, you just don't know. So you can't change what you don't know.
Yeah. So
you have to really just figure out what that base plan is. And a good way to do that is to calculate your net worth, which would be to go through and just look at, you can estimate this. It can be a really quick exercise, and just be like, okay, what are all my assets worth? And that would just be, what would they be worth if I sold them right now? So what if my car and my house and anything else, like investments, bank account balances. And that's a really quick exercise. You would also then go through all your debt, what you owe. So that would be like, okay, what do I owe on credit? What do I owe on my mortgage? What do I, you know, if I owe any money to family members, or, you know, a car financing, all those things. And then you look at what that number is, and that can give you a really good idea of, you know, okay, what's our debt right now? Where are we sitting right now? And then it's the first step to make that plan. And it could be a really good way to bring everything together and, you know, say, okay, this is where we're at. I don't know if you knew, but, you know, it creeps up on you. You don't know. You're just living your life, and things change. And sometimes that doesn't always get factored in. And so, yeah, I think taking that first step, looking at your net worth, having it a big picture.
So when you say assets, you mentioned your house, your car. So I'm not looking at my clothes. I'm not looking at my bed or furniture.
You're looking at your big ticket items, the things that, hold significant value.
How do I do that? Do I am I am I making just an estimate, or am I going on Google, finding how much my house is worth? What would you,
so for your house, you can just look at what's been selling in the market. So I would just do an estimate, because really It's just for you to understand. So okay, this is about how much it is. This is about how much we have in assets. And a big part of that too is your bank. How much you have in the bank, how much you have in savings, retirement, pension, if you have any of that. So then just adding all that up and say, because maybe, depending on the different avenues, you have more than you realize. So that's just a really good idea to bring it all together, because everybody has different bank accounts. They have different credit cards and, so you're just going through paying things off as they come. And so it's just a way to look at it all together, which is a really good idea. A really good thing to get just a snapshot in time.
Gotcha. So we look at it, we have it, we're probably scared as crap about it, because I'm wondering what would it look like if we're negative?
Yeah. So you know what? And a lot of that too has to do with where you are in life. So take that into consideration. If you're starting out your financial journey and, you just bought a house, you're not going to have a lot of equity on it.
Yeah.
And, if you're still paying off student loans and things like that versus somebody who's, farther along in their career and's had a chance to build up some equity and pay that off. So always have that in the back of your mind when you're looking at it. And the other thing I would also suggest is just don't look at it in a way that is negative. Look at it as this is your first step, because now and you can change it if you need to. So if it's negative, then look at those debt amounts, make a debt repayment plan. And now you have a benchmark for, in a few months from now, in a year from now, you can look and say, listen, look at what we did. We increased our net worth by this much because we intentionally paid down debt or intentionally saved or, did a few of those things.
I love that you said that, because I remember saying, we have to do this. We have to do this no matter what.
Yeah.
And, whether he was on board or not, I knew that we weren't headed in the right direction if we didn't do it. And so went ahead and did it. And he did jump on board. It was this amazing thing. He jumped on board so much so he ended up taking he was next level. He ended up taking over our finances, because I recognized I was too emotional. There were times that my kids wanted to go to cheerleading, or our friends would ask if they could go places, if they could go, I remember one of my friends asked, hey, you know what? I'm taking my daughter to Knott's Berry Farm. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, my daughter can go. And she's like, well, just buy the ticket. I'm thinking homegirl was going to buy my daughter's ticket. I know that was off, but I just got so excited. I've been penny pinching everywhere. So I was looking for some hope. And, when she said that, it was oh my God, yeah, that's right. I have to pay for this. And I asked Willie, and he's like, she can't go. And it was whoa, you can't go, but she can go. I'll figure it out. And he's like, no, she really can't go. And it was so it was this really humbling experience. And I had to tell my friend, she can't go. I was so embarrassed. Because I was oh my God, dude, homegirl's going to probably ask me if I need to borrow money. And that wasn't the case, but it was still our money was already distributed, and it was already, Dave Ramsey does it where it's whatever cash you have, you're allocating it to whatever it is. And then That's it. That's it. That's all you have. And so if it's not in your budget, you don't have it. And I couldn't run to a credit card. I couldn't run to anything. And so I remember feeling all of the feelings and wanting to just scream. And what I realized is, okay, this is part of it. This is part of the change. It has to be this way, even though it's uncomfortable. So what are the steps? What are some of the steps that we have to take towards this financial success?
So I think there's such a range in terms of how you decide to jump on the journey. So there are definitely some programs that are, they're like, you're going to like do this, you're going to do it 100%. And, Dave Ramsey's a little bit like that, which is fantastic, right? Like, because you get results really, really quick, but it doesn't always have to be as, like you can spread that out. You can budget for things. You can take a little bit longer. And depending on, what your goals are, that can change how significant the impact is on your life. And like you've experienced, it's not forever, right?
No.
Like you're taking a step right now to create that freedom down the road, and how involved you do at the moment is completely up to you. So if you're really just starting out and you're just like, okay, this is very overwhelming, I don't even know, where to start, my recommendation would be, find out where you are right now. And then you would go through and you would try to find out what your living expenses are. So where is your money going every month? And that can be a simple exercise of either looking at last month and say, okay, what went to my living costs? What went to other costs, which could be subscriptions or clothes or maybe non-essential items. And then in those other costs, that's where you find the room. That's where you find, you're like, okay, you know what? Like I do want to find, an extra $500 to put away to debt. What am I going to do? And it can be as simple as picking 3 goals for the next month, 3 financial goals. Like I'm only going to eat out 5 times or 3 times, or I am going to put this $200 towards this credit card. Or so like it can be as simple as 3 goals, and then evaluate at the end of the month, see where your money went during the month, see how you did towards those goals, and then make 3 new goals for the next month. And that can be such an easy, way to start changing habits, finding out where your money is going, and being more intentional with where your money is going. And so if you're really just starting out, that's a really good place to kind of start. So you need to find out where you are now and just know where your money is going.
So
that way.
Can we reference, so when I'm thinking of what you just said and, where I was at when we had first started, what we did was we referenced our bank statement and literally took, we looked at 2 bank statements and, we were able to make a spreadsheet. How much did we spend on gas? How much is gas for the month? And then the other thing is, how much are we spending on groceries? Like, what's the average? The other thing is, how much are we eating out? Oh my God, I cannot tell you how much we were eating out. It was crazy, crazy. Like that's where those extra $200, $500 could come from if you kept your butt at home. But yeah, I remember looking at all of that, and we created a really easy spreadsheet on Excel. How much are we eating out? How much is our day-to-day living? Like how much are all of our bills? And so is that what you're talking about? Like when you look at living expenses, and then what was the other thing you said? I want to make sure that this is like broken down. So these women can apply this right now, because homegirls, no excuses.
So you want to look at your living expenses. So your true, like how much is your gas? How much is it to, run your house and eat, like for your groceries and things like that. And then you have more of an other, like a discretionary, and that would be things that are non-essential.
Like entertainment.
Entertainment, yeah. So like if like you have, multiple subscriptions to different streaming services plus cable, maybe that's something that you look at. You're like, okay, do I need all these subscriptions and cable? Where can I? So it gives you an idea of where you can really go through and figure it out.
Yeah. And so once we have that established and we're looking for those extra $200, $300, what do we do with that extra money? Do we put it away in a savings, or like Dave Ramsey asks you the first step is save the 1,000. right? I remember having garage sales, looking in our couch for money and change. We came up with that 1,000, but I remember like, okay, what do we need to do to create this? And that ended up being our main goal. What would you say, like, so we find this $300, what do we do with it? Where do we put it?
So that is definitely where you would look at your personal situation.
Gotcha.
So there's definitely not a one size fits all.
Okay.
And so looking at so if you had done looking at all your debt, you'd want to pick off the debt that has the highest interest rate. So if you're carrying credit card debt, that should be really where you're paying
the money
down.
Oh.
Because you can easily find a few $100s on the interest that you're paying on the credit card debt. So I would recommend to do that first and kind of just chip away at that. Also, you want to look at having an emergency fund. So Dave Ramsey has that $1,000, definitely a good place to start. For an emergency fund, you really want to try to get 2 to 3 months of living expenses. So when you looked at what your true living expenses are, that's what you'd want to make sure that you can carry on for a few months.
Okay. So which one do we do first? Living or the savings or paying off the credit card? So I only got $300. And so I don't even know where it's going.
I think I would do the emergency fund.
Yeah.
But again, that depends on how secure you are in your, like if you're feel a lot of uncertainty, then build that emergency fund. This year has taught us anything. Yes, an emergency fund is needed because you never know when is going to have a pandemic, right? Like not foreseen if things happen like that. So I would put it towards your emergency fund. And then once you have, that established, really start to pay down that credit card debt first. And yeah.
So that number is dependent, the savings account is dependent on 2 to 3 months of living expenses.
Yeah, that's what I would, because that's really what the emergency fund is for. Like if, someone loses their job or, gets laid off because of the pandemic, you never know. Yeah. You never know. And so that can help bridge the gap, for a few months.
Yeah. The other thing is, what I noticed with us, the minute we started saving and putting that money towards the emergency fund, something happened with our car or something happened with the kids. And it started to feel a bit frustrating because it was like, oh my gosh, we're trying to put this money here. Would everybody just stop moving? And at the same time, I was so thankful we had that because we were able to use it. We didn't rely on a credit card. We even cut up our credit cards. Like, it's not happening. This is no longer an option. Like, they're all gone. They're all gone.
Yeah. So, I'm sure that was able to get you through it so much faster.
Yeah.
And
it was motivation.
It's motivation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be as extreme. Like if you're listening to this and you're just like, oh my God, I just I can't be in that space right now. Like my partner's not going to jump on board. Then you can take it slower and you can, so say you find $300 a month, you can put $200 to a savings and you can put $100 against your credit card. And what starts to happen is, and things do come up. So for that emergency fund, if things come up and you're just like, oh man, I need to pay for the car and I need to pay, that's what it's for. So once you really, and you'll notice this, and I'm sure you notice this once you start really being intentional and know where your money is going, you're going to find other places. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to not just put away to your emergency fund and keep that kind of going, but also pay down debt and savings. And, but all that should you can do an annual plan for all of this, which I teach in my course. It kind of works through a debt repayment plan and a savings plan, and it shows it all on an annual calendar so that you can be like, okay, if we pay down this much per month and we put this much in savings per month, this is where we're going to be at the end of the year. And that is so motivating because when you can see that number, it's like, okay, it's finite, right? You're like, this is what we're working towards. This is our goal at the end of the year. And then you can make a new goal for the next year. And I think I think if you can set it up that way, then you'll be able to tick all those boxes. You'll have an understanding of, okay, where is it going? Is it going to savings? Is it going to debt? Is it going to emergency fund? Is it going to our Disney World family trip fund? You know, like you can really create it to how you want, and you can portion off. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Like I have to build 100% of this, and then only then can I start doing the other things. You can create a plan that kind of chips away at all those things.
Absolutely. So it's more tailored to your comfort level.
Yes, it's tailored to your goals. You know, a personal plan is so personal. It's, you know, every family, everyone has different goals for their family and different things that are priorities. You know, if traveling is a really big priority, then you can include that in your plan. If retiring early is a really big priority, then you can include that in your plan and see, you know, if paying down debt as fast as possible is part of your plan, then you can tailor it towards that as well. So like it is very personal.
Okay. All right. What are the last 3 steps towards financial success?
So you've got what's your snapshot in time right now? And then your second step would be understanding where your money is going. So tracking and then and making that budget and that plan. And then the last step, which is the most important step, is evaluate. So
it's 3 steps, not 5 steps.
Yeah, sorry. It's 3 steps. So then the last one would be to evaluate.
Gotcha.
And that's where you look at where your plan was, so your goal for the month, and then how you did. And did you reach those goals? Because a budget on its own is just a tool. So if you don't evaluate and look at it and reassess, then, you know, it's not going to help you move towards those goals. So if you really need to look at what happened during that month and compare it to what you had planned, and then, you know, make your plan for the next month and be like, okay, you know, we were on track with these things. We weren't on track for these things. How do we, you know, change that for next month? What steps do we need to take? And then go forward.
Gotcha. So how do we know if we're doing well? Like, what is the indicator? How do we know if we're failing?
Well, with numbers, it's pretty easy. So if you make a budget of where you want to be, how much you want to pay down in debt, how much you want to save, you'll have a pretty good idea of if you're meeting those goals or not. And I know a lot of people just, you know, are more visual learners. So I've created a template that has kind of a dashboard, and it has more visual graphs and visual, you know, charts that can really show where you are progressing.
Girl, you know, I want that template.
Yeah, I will provide that for sure.
Awesome. Okay. And so how often do we evaluate? Every 3 months, once a year? Because I know me, if I'm doing it once a year, well, then I'm going to get off track. It's kind of like me sticking to a healthy plan. Like if I don't have an accountability partner, girl, I'm eating onion rings and everything else. So how do I keep myself accountable? How do I keep myself disciplined?
Okay. So I would recommend at the beginning to do it every month, because that is really where, and you've got a lot of expenses are monthly, right? And so I would do it every month, and I would do that for at least a year. And so you have your plan. And you'll notice this, like once you've done it, and I'm sure you understand that too, like once you start to change those habits, and you're much more aware of where your money is going naturally, and you're much more, so if you're thinking, oh my God, I can't do this every month for the rest of my life, this is crazy. It doesn't have to be forever, because you start to understand once you have that plan and you know where your money's going and you understand what your monthly costs are, you'll know, you know, when you're spending a little bit more in areas that you normally don't. And when that happens, you know, you can really check in every few months. So like for us, like I check in probably every 3 months. I kind of say, okay, you know, where are we compared to, but I have a whole like I've sat down with my husband and we have a whole annual budget of where we want to be. And if, we check in 3 months and we're like, whoa, like what went wrong? Then we have we're able to, like, that way, then I'll start to be like, okay, we're going to track this again next month because we need to get back on track. So it doesn't have to be a monthly thing forever, but to set up those habits, to understand where your money's going, and to really be intentional, I recommend every month.
Okay. That makes sense. As you were saying that, I was thinking of, like, again, I was reflecting back to where we were, and we were, taking the course together, very, very much intentional. And we started to become, like, I don't know, we started to become smarter with our money. Like, we don't need that. We don't need that. Do you want it or do you need it? And it was most of the time it was something we wanted. And it's like, okay, then we got to a place where we're like, okay, we don't need it. We don't need it. We're not getting it. I don't care if you cry, we're leaving. And so we started doing that. The same thing with food, and the same thing with, like, some of the things that we thought we had to buy. Like, no, we really have to buy this. We ended up even cutting cable. We ended up cutting and figuring out, like, what was a good internet plan for us? What was a good phone plan? Like, things we had never done, and realized, wait a minute, all of this time we've been spending extra money on these items when we could have been pocketing that money. And I'll tell you what, once we did finish this process and we ended up paying off all of our debt, both of our school debt, credit cards, our car, like everything, with the exception of our house. We paid everything off. It was just, I don't know, it was just this huge weight off our shoulders. And it was like, dude, we're totally debt free. And even with my business, debt free. I don't owe anything to anybody. It's my business. Yeah. It's just like, oh my goodness. Like, we did all of this. Even I had to talk to a financial planner with regards to investments and whatnot. And he was just like, wait a minute, your business has no debt? And it's like, no. And he's like, well, what about this? And it's like, no, zero. We have nothing. And it just feels so good. And the way we think and the way we approach things when we go out, it's totally different than before. And it's crazy because I never thought, nobody's taught us this. And I never thought that this could happen, that this was actually possible. I thought, well, yeah, it's normal. You have a credit card debt, just use that. I never thought, no, don't use that. Use cash.
Yeah, it's very, it's very freeing. And it just, what the tracking does at the beginning is it creates you're able to be intentional with your money. Yeah. So then, instead of just spending, you're like, okay, yeah, do I need this? Is this in line with, what my goals are? And a lot of the times it's like, no, you know what? Like, yeah, it'd be nice, but I don't need it. And I would rather put my money towards another goal. So yeah, I think it's fantastic that you have a business that's debt free and, super inspiring. And all those things can really change. It affects your whole life. So it really, like, absolutely, it's just such a great life skill. And there's not enough emphasis on it. So
yeah, I think another thing is it changes your relationship. It changes your relationship significantly. That's one of the common stressors in a marriage is finances. And yeah, ladies, if you're listening to this, Audrey's on point. Do it anyway. Even if your husband's not on board, do it anyway. Present him with, that net worth calculation so you can see that, like, wait a minute, no, we're not headed in the right direction. In addition to that, it might scare him. That's okay. It scared me, and that's all right, because now you have a plan. So I'm going to ask you, Audrey, my last two questions. What are you doing right now to live the life you want to live?
So right now I'm pivoting a little bit so that I have more time with my kids, and I'm creating a course that really helps women set these plans, pretty much everything we talked about, but a step by step. So taking away the overwhelm, because I love helping people and I really like the financial success, and how it changes people's lives is so amazing. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Totally stepping outside your comfort zone, right?
Yes.
Awesome. My last question, in one sentence, what advice would you give to the mom who feels stressed and disconnected?
Make a plan, because a plan will help you tackle that stress. And so that would be my recommendation.
Awesome. I agree. I agree. So where can we find you, Audrey?
You can find me at theblssplan.com, and I've got templates and net worth calculators that you can also find through a link there.
Okay. And what free giveaway are you giving us?
So I've created, it's called Master Your Money Mindset. And it helps kind of work through some of the emotional things that might come up when you start talking about money. And it also has a tracker where you can track your spending on a weekly basis and a monthly basis, and kind of start the process where you set those goals. So it's very simple. It's a very easy first step, and allowing you to, tackle those money blocks that might be there and find out where your money is going.
Is it something where we just can key in some numbers and it'll help us make those calculations?
Yeah.
Oh, girl. Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wish I would have had that when I started, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's hard to do it on your own. Thank you so much, Audrey. You've been absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been so wonderful talking to you.
Absolutely. So, ladies, I want to know where you're at. I want to know what this looks like. What is your net worth? You don't have to put it anywhere, but just let me know it was done. So make sure to tag me either on Instagram or on Facebook, because I want to go ahead and support you throughout the process. And we're going to have Audrey. We will schedule something where Audrey comes on live in our private Facebook group, Empowered and Unapologetic. If you're not a member, girl, get your butt over there. We will have Audrey on there answering any of your questions that you have. So make sure you get going and you do the things, because it is so, so important. Audrey, again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Oh, thanks so much, Veronica. It's so great.
What's up, ladies? Just want to let you guys know that your ratings and reviews for this podcast are greatly appreciated. If you love this podcast, please go to iTunes right now and rate and review. Thank you, guys. Many women lose their own identity in the shadow of being a mom and a wife. We are a community of women who support each other. We leave perfectionism behind to become empowered and unapologetic. I know you're ready for the next steps. If you want to become empowered and unapologetic, get my free course, Unapologetically Me, over at empoweredandunapologetic.com/course. Empowered and Unapologetic is part of the Practice of the Practice Podcast Network, a family of podcasts that change the world. To hear other podcasts like the Bomb Mom Podcast, Beta Male Revolution, or Imperfect Thriving, go to practiceofthepractice.com/network. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. This is given with the understanding that neither the host, Practice of the Practice, or the guests are providing legal, mental health, or other professional information. If you need a professional, you should find one.
Addiction impacts all of us. Addiction's consequences run through all of us. From ourselves to our loved ones and through our communities, addiction creates so much loss and grief. My name is Dwayne Osterlin, and I'm the host of the Addicted Mind podcast, a show featuring personal stories, expert guests, and vital information about addiction and addiction recovery. We'll talk with leading treatment providers to discuss the latest research and treatment options for this devastating disease and advocate for mental health awareness. We discuss topics like the importance of creating a community of support to helping loved ones to some of the latest research on psychedelic medicines. The Addicted Mind podcast has been about creating hope, listening to stories of many amazing people that have overcome addiction and are thriving. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, subscribe to the Addicted Mind podcast wherever you get your podcasts or check out theaddictedmind.com. New episodes every Monday. See you there.
Hey there, this is Casey McGuire Davidson, host of the Hello Someday podcast. I'm an ex-red wine girl turned life coach who helps busy women change their relationship with alcohol. I spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder while drinking a bottle of wine a night to unwind. In the Hello Someday podcast, my goal is to teach you the tried and true secrets of creating and living a life you don't want to escape from. Each week, I'll bring you tools, lessons, and conversations to help you drink less and live more. I'll teach you how to navigate our drinking-obsessed culture without a buzz and how to turn the decision to stop drinking from your worst-case scenario to the best decision of your life. You can find new episodes of the Hello Someday podcast every Thursday, wherever you listen, and I hope you check it out. Hey there, this is Casey McGuire Davidson, host of the Hello Someday podcast. I'm an ex-red wine girl turned life coach who helps busy women change their relationship with alcohol. I spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder while drinking a bottle of wine a night to unwind. In the Hello Someday podcast, my goal is to teach you the tried and true secrets of creating and living a life you don't want to escape from. Each week, I'll bring you tools, lessons, and conversations to help you drink less and live more. I'll teach you how to navigate our drinking-obsessed culture without a buzz and how to turn the decision to stop drinking from your worst-case scenario to the best decision of your life. You can find new episodes of the Hello Someday podcast every Thursday, wherever you listen, and I hope you check it out.
Addiction impacts all of us. Addiction's consequences run through all of us. From ourselves to our loved ones and through our communities, addiction creates so much loss and grief. My name is Dwayne Osterlin, and I'm the host of the Addicted Mind podcast, a show featuring personal stories, expert guests, and vital information about addiction and addiction recovery. We'll talk with leading treatment providers to discuss the latest research and treatment options for this devastating disease and advocate for mental health awareness. We discuss topics like the importance of creating a community of support to helping loved ones to some of the latest research on psychedelic medicines. The Addicted Mind podcast has been about creating hope, listening to stories of many amazing people that have overcome addiction and are thriving. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, subscribe to the Addicted Mind podcast wherever you get your podcasts or check out theaddictedmind.com. New episodes every Monday. See you there.
Hey there, this is Casey McGuire Davidson, host of the Hello Someday podcast. I'm an ex-red wine girl turned life coach who helps busy women change their relationship with alcohol. I spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder while drinking a bottle of wine a night to unwind. In the Hello Someday podcast, my goal is to teach you the tried and true secrets of creating and living a life you don't want to escape from. Each week, I'll bring you tools, lessons, and conversations to help you drink less and live more. I'll teach you how to navigate our drinking-obsessed culture without a buzz and how to turn the decision to stop drinking from your worst-case scenario to the best decision of your life. You can find new episodes of the Hello Someday podcast every Thursday, wherever you listen, and I hope you check it out.
Oh, hey, it's Erin.
And I'm Michaela, and we're the hosts of the Two Sober Girls podcast, and we are on a mission to spill the wild truth about sobriety.
Forget the rosé all day cliche. Sobriety is flipping amazing.
Absolutely. It's not just about quitting the drink. It's a gift you give yourself and your loved ones.
So what are you waiting for? Break up with that old toxic relationship with alcohol and let us show you the possibilities.
And here's the thing. everything your precious heart desires becomes way easier without the influence of alcohol.
We're not just two sober girls, we're also wellness coaches. We're here to show you how to optimize health, lifestyle, and beauty, feel sexy and alive as F.
So stay tuned because we're rolling out new episodes every Monday wherever you get your podcasts, and trust us, they have your name written all over them. We can't wait to share the magic of sobriety and wellness with you. Subscribe to Two Sober Girls Podcast today and come follow us on Instagram for behind the scenes action and send us a DM. We can't wait to meet you.